All right, welcome to another live Pro Football Doc Sports Injury Central podcast here. We're in the quote war room with the usual crew. Taylor's on with us, Doug's in the background here. Welcome. It's March. Time flies. The combines are over. We'll cover some of those stories.
Do you feel like there's no break between Super Bowl? Sometimes I felt like, oh, we have a little break, but then I just go right to the draft stuff, right to
I'm so glad I didn't go to combines.
need
Too
that little
much stuff going on.
Yeah.
My son on Saturday had three sports: baseball game where he hit the game tying triple.
Oh, there you go.
And then scored to walk it off. Basketball, they won in an overtime game, and flag football after that, they were down by 12 at halftime and down by 2 scores into the fourth quarter and won in their playoff game.
All in one day.
All in one day.
There you go.
All genetics.
Yeah, there you go.
Coaching. No,
Yes.
all good. My daughter Dylan was in Dallas at the National Cheerleading Association. I don't know if you heard about it, where there was, quote, an active shooter. And
didn't hear about that. Yeah,
that was kind of.
I didn't know about the cheerleading competition. I heard about the shooter afterwards.
Well, it was, believe it or not, what you got to understand is, see, I've been involved in San Diego Sports Commission and other things. So sports travel is a huge category of vacation spending money. And it's not about going to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. It's not about going to see a Green Bay Packers game. It's not about seeing your team on the road somewhere else. It is little kid sport travel, baseball, volleyball, soccer, cheerleading, this, that, the other. There were 1,700 teams there.
Wow.
And each team is at least 20 kids, I think, or plus minus.
Okay.
So there's 35,000 kids, which means 35,000 plus parents.
Is this a Super Bowl cheerleading? Is this like they don't really?
This is a big one.
Okay.
But there's more people traveling for this than for a Super Bowl.
Right.
I mean, anyways.
This was in the Dallas football stadium?
It was the Dallas Convention Center.
Okay.
It wasn't in Jerry World.
Okay.
I don't think. I wasn't there. But anyways, busy weekend. No.
This is every weekend for you too.
Yeah, it's all good. So, but lots going on in the sports world here, and I promise we'll get to some guests, but we have so much to talk about here still. Where do you want to start, Taylor?
Well, I do.
You got lots of basketball stuff. You got free picks because you've been doing so well, everybody. Code word March, free picks at Sick Picks. I know you've been killing NBA and college basketball, and it makes sense. Every injury is a cluster in basketball.
Say it's more important than football. That's what you always said. Yeah. I didn't want to jump to the combine, Doc. You did say you didn't go. I assume, though, if you did go, you would have been in the Starbucks when there's a little showdown that happened between two friendlies that we've talked to for years. Look, just tell me your thoughts on that. Yeah.
Ian Rappaport has been a friend for years. He's been on this podcast several times. Schultz has been a friend. Look, I don't know. I mean,
I know you wanted to roast me on a subject. I told you. I think I know you. Everybody knows him. His Schultz, his dad is the owner of Starbucks. And for me, I just think like if any job he would have took, I think journalism is so hard. I would have been just a little trust fund baby sitting around doing nothing. And you said that's
well. Here you, millennial, shows your motivation. So you're only here because you got to put food on the table. You're not here
not because I love the game. Yeah,
not because you love it. No, look, I think Shaq said it well. Shaq goes, I respect that he was kind of specific on the comments. I respect that Jordan Schultz could have just been in charge of all the Starbucks franchisees and didn't have to work a day in his life.
Yeah.
And I do think being an insider is hard. Not only picking up your phone every second of the day and getting sources, but also relaying things the correct way. And if you have sources, it's no secret. You're beholden to them in the way that to do it on their time and their timing and say all the right things. That's kind of why I'm glad I have no sources. I mean, when I first started doing this, I could call every doctor and the trainers in the league. I knew them all. Some I don't know anymore because there's some new ones. But it just would be inappropriate to violate HIPAA. And for them to violate HIPAA, it's inappropriate for me to ask them to violate HIPAA. And then I don't want to be holding and answering phone calls when I'm at dinner with the kids or at a baseball game. So I'm glad I never went down the insider path. I respect the insider path. It's a hard life. My only sources are my eyes and my brain, insider knowledge, not insider information. And I'm glad that we went down that path. And that's actually why it ties together. I didn't want to go to combines. If I went to combines, it would be completely inappropriate for me to get a medical credential and go behind the exams. The media is not allowed in there.
Or if you did do a doctor thing, you wouldn't be able to do anything on the other side.
I wouldn't be able to do anything on the other side. And then it blurs the lines. And then if we're talking about, I'm sure we'll get to Abdul Carter and be like, oh, well, you got inside info. You examined him. You did that. No. I want to stay on the insider knowledge path, not on insider information. So I respect Rap Sheet and Schefter and all the guys and Jordan Schultz. I mean, he can be on easy street, but he's working hard. Good for him. Rap Sheet works hard. Schefter, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm always amazed when I text Adam. He would text back in less.
It's lightning quick. Yeah.
He texts back quicker than you do. Yeah. And you usually text.
You did it to me in front of me one time. You're like, watch this. And I'm like, wow, okay.
But I was actually saying something to Adam. I wasn't playing a game with him.
Yeah.
He's awesome. These guys, they work hard.
They're on it. Yeah.
And I don't know. Some of the comments I think are laughable. My number one question is, I want to hear, you saw the picture. I want to hear Jeremy Fowler's version. I like Jeremy. Jeremy was the guy standing there talking to Rap Sheet. He hasn't said a word. I want to hear his version of it. Look, there were no raised fists in that picture.
Did you see what Garofalo said? He said, if TMZ was wanted a picture, he's like, I should have sent them mine. He said, I had a couple, like.
Mike, you should have posted them. Where's the journalism inside you? But the other thing that's funny, the picture I saw, I mean, you could tell that wasn't a happy smile on Jordan Schultz, but there was no fisticuffs. And I don't know what kind of, it sounds like there was a couple swear words. I get it.
Ian said he didn't call NFL security. He said that on the McAfee show. So it wasn't him doing that. That's what they also think. They're like, oh, why did he run in and tell them? That's not what I heard.
I don't know. I'm not getting involved in it. I mean, another friend of our show, PFT commenter, said he did.
Yeah. So it's like,
I don't know. He didn't call or I mean, look, I'm not saying this, Ian. It's not that big a deal. Look, Ian is part of NFL Network, which is technically NFL, and it may be his bosses. I don't know this. Maybe his bosses told him, "I'm going to do it because this is what I need to do as a boss. It's part of NFL
protect
rules.
You or whatever."
It could be you need to do it because I'm going to do it, but you might as well do it to give your side of it directly because they're going to be calling you. I don't know. I don't know what the truth is.
All speculation.
Look, I do know. On Tale of the Tape. Look, I love Ian. Ian's awesome. I've actually run into him at the Breeders' Cup in San Diego. I've
just
met
saw him
his
in New
wife.
Orleans.
Saw him in New Orleans. Tale of the Tape. Jordan Schultz is much bigger.
He was standing over. Yes.
Now, maybe this is all part of the Barstool Brawl thing, like the Patrick Mahomes Senior.
Yeah, the rough and rowdy. Yeah.
Maybe this is a rough and rowdy matchup about to come, but I don't know. They're not in the same weight class. That's all I'm going to say.
You're correct on that.
But look, I respect Jordan Schultz. I respect Ian Rappaport. I don't know. I think the whole thing is kind of funny. And then
even Rocker and Mahomes Senior are not in the weight class either. Rocker looks a little big. But
well, the other thing is, I heard criticism of Jordan Schultz. Oh, he's got to do it in Daddy's Starbucks. That wasn't Daddy's Starbucks. That's a franchisee.
I'm one of those people. I said that to you. Yes.
Marriott. It's inside the Marriott. You think every Starbucks inside of Vaughn's or whatever grocery store is owned by Howard Schultz? No, they're franchisees. McDonald's, there's corporate stores, there's franchisee stores. It's a franchisee. They're selling Starbucks coffee. I mean, whatever. It wasn't. And then the Dunkin' Donuts comments were funny. Look, I'm just glad.
He's stirring it. Yeah.
whatever happened, that there was no physical violence. Look, I get it. Swear words come and go. You get upset and emotional. Not often, but you and I, and well, maybe not Doug. Doug's too straightforward, but like sometimes there's a come on, we gotta freaking go. Sometimes there's a little momentary look. Are you saying that even among family you've never said a swear word? I mean, no, I'm not saying Rap Sheet and Schultz are family. They're competitors, but I think they got to have some healthy respect. And it was all over the Tom Brady stuff.
The resort, ski resort with Matt Stafford. Yeah.
I mean, if I were going down insider information, I have a friend, not me, has a place in that Montana thing that private, whatever.
You just don't want to go down that path, but you have the sources, I think. But yeah.
I mean, he has a house there. I was like,
figured it out. Yeah.
And look, the truth is always somewhere in the middle. Did Tom Brady invite Matthew Stafford to go stay at his house? I don't think so. Did Tom Brady just have a chance encounter and, I ran into him in the ski slope lift line or in the restaurant and we walked by and said hello? Doubt it. I mean,
I wish I could do that. Just see NFL players in the lift line. Yeah.
I think it was more, you happen to be here. I happen to be here. Let's have a cup of coffee or a beer. It's somewhere in between. And guess what? The league has come out and said it's not tampering. So what's the big deal?
Yeah.
And
didn't even work anyways.
The irony, if we're talking insider info, the last time Stafford switched teams, this time
Detroit to LA.
It was Winter, Montana, and I have a friend, whatever. Last time there was a Sports Injury Central investor who was kind of witness to it down in Cabo.
Okay.
His place, I forget the exact story. I don't want to get it wrong. I think his place, I think it was something to the effect of, if I'm getting the story right, his place is next door to Whitworth's place.
Okay. Yes.
And Whitworth was key on the Sean McVay and Stafford being there. And I think Stafford might have rented our investor's place on a VRBO. I don't know exactly, but it was a very close proximity, something that I had heard of going down that I left alone. I'm not an insider information guy. I'm not trying to stir up tampering rumors.
But how does that work though for the Whitworth thing? If Whitworth hosted all of them, is that tampering on Whitworth's side, or how do they? It's just I feel like a fine line. I don't know. Like
Whitworth as a player is not tampering.
Okay.
Because he has no authority.
Okay.
If McVay contacted Stafford without permission from the Lions, what they're saying about Tom Brady is the Rams gave permission for Matthew Stafford to seek a trade, which opened up the doors for other teams to call Matthew Stafford, which opened up the door for Tom Brady as an owner to speak to Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
So it's not just like during this free agency legal tampering, it's only the team. It's not agent to player.
Tom can't do this during the free agent thing. Yeah.
This is why the Kirk Cousins thing last time, he talked to an athletic trainer, the team, was that appropriate or not? The free agent period is just to the agent from the team.
So they can't do any medical stuff. The agent has to do medical. Okay. So that's why the athletic
theory, no.
Yeah. Because the athletic guy was probably trying to jump on
this time because they gave permission
to
outside
Stafford
to seek a trade. What Tom did or didn't do is completely legal anyways.
Yeah.
And is what it is. But respect to Rap Sheet a lot. I've known him longer than Jordan Schultz, but respect to Jordan Schultz as well. And look, what's the difference between that and two players mic'd up jawing?
Nothing. It's just a different profession. Yeah, different profession.
They didn't come to blows. Yeah. They didn't, I think it was a interesting, humorous story. And Mike Garofalo, you've been on the podcast. Why don't you publish the pictures? Come on now.
You know the journalistic world better than
we
anybody.
Want to see. What do you got to hide? Come on. And yes, Taylor, I'm going to give you shit. So if you get a big inheritance, you're quitting. You're telling.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah. But I guess Starbucks inheritance.
As Doug said to you when you were coming on, he goes, "Don't you want to make a name for yourself?"
Yes, that's what it sounds.
Okay, so maybe this is bad. I'll say it. Whatever. It's a pocket. So should we, Doug? Should we now nickname him Bronny?
Just take me along for the ride. Road games.
He just wants to get taken along for the ride.
I do a couple G League games, make it look like I'm working.
Look, I don't know if you guys know this. Taylor's middle name is apparently
Jordan. Yes,
after
Michael Jordan,
the shoe designer.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Wait a second.
The clothing designer.
Yeah.
I think it should be Bronny.
Yeah, I might have to change it now.
I think we have to call him Bronny, right? Yeah. Like he wants to just coattail.
Yeah. That's what Shaq said it right. He said, that's what Shaq said. He said, I would have done the opposite of what Shaq said. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Bronny.
I do want to mention, though, your Vaughn's thing is totally correct. I did work at Vaughn's and I did work a week in Starbucks because I was really good at the register, but they did not want me making any of the drinks. I just was really good at putting your order in and then I stuck to the side. So I did work at Starbucks for a week and it's not owned. It's owned by the Vaughn's and they get licensing. It's not.
Yeah, they just buy their coffee.
You can't even use your gift card you have at Starbucks, like deals, can't be used in the Vaughn's one. They're separate.
Oh,
so
see,
there you go.
Separate.
I just want to put that. There you go.
Separate.
Yes.
But I don't know. I drink some coffee now, but like my wife used to love Starbucks, and I'd go in and ask for a large coffee, and they'd say a venti coffee. I said a large coffee. They said a venti. I was like, okay,
whatever. You're back and forth with this.
Whatever. Make it a large. Call it what you want. I don't know what it is.
Just make sure my wife likes it. I'm the one in trouble.
Oh, by the way, now if she ever has me go to Starbucks, well, I'll say just mobile order it and I'll pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the new thing. But in the past, I was like, text me the order. I mean, I can't get non-fat oat milk,
double
cream,
pump
vanilla latte.
Yep. No vitamin boost, maybe. Yeah.
I can't.
It's insane. Yeah.
Show me the text. This is what she wants.
That's why I was only at Starbucks for a week, by the way. It was only a week because I couldn't handle it.
I drink my coffee when I drink black. Yeah. Just give me coffee. I'm not. That
just a regular Pike's Place, right? That's it. See, I know my names. Yeah.
Oh, they confuse you sometimes there too. They'll say
because you can't even say black coffee.
Yeah, Americano, or they'll say someplace they drip. Or I'm like, just a coffee. Yeah. I don't know what is it called.
Yeah, when they say black coffee, it's Pike's Place regular. So you can't even just your verbiage doesn't work there. But all right, Doc, let's jump in. You already mentioned this guy already. You have a list of a couple players that had injuries coming out of combine. First, so Abdul Carter had a shoulder injury. We've documented.
First of all, were there any injuries at combines this year?
Yeah, yes. Oh, is the
as in occurred like every other year? There's a guy who bench presses and tears his pec, or there was the tight end that rolled his ankle.
Yes, that's the one I had here. Yeah, Gunnar Helm. He ankle injury on his false start on his 40. Didn't tell anybody. Did all his drills, and then they saw it afterward. He said he'll do pro day and be fine.
Yeah, we know he's gonna, but he finished all his drills.
He did. Yeah, he didn't tell anybody. Yeah,
that's good on him.
As an agent, though, should you tell him no? Because we had one. It was Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle, hamstring. They told him not to do his drills. So
I would argue the other way.
Okay, do it and all this stuff makes him look good if I do it.
I would argue the other way. Okay. I did not know that he finished. Now, by the time you sent the pictures to me and I looked at it, I said, he's fine for pro day. Grade 2 lateral ankle sprain. Yes, I could see him finishing his drills. I mean, that's the kind of ankle sprain. It's not fun. But that's the kind you lace if you're playing basketball, you lace your high tops up tighter.
Hockey, you just tie your laces
tighter. Get it retaped. And what he put on social media was after the fact because of the bruising. You don't bruise that quickly, right? The swelling and bruising come after the fact. If you wrap it, tape it, compress it, put the shoe on tighter, you can see him finishing his workout. I think he gets a lot of credit for finishing because that's what GMs and coaches want to see during a game. You roll your ankle, let's go. We'll deal with it afterwards.
That's exactly what happened. He said nothing, did all his drills, and had an MRI on Saturday. And he said after the drills, he's like, hey, might have done something. Did MRI on Saturday, revealed, saw the pictures.
I think that's going to get him some respect.
Okay.
Now, I don't know where he's going in the draft and how good.
Not one of the top ones, but he's one of the, better tight ends. So it might jump him up a couple spots just by, the kind of player he is. Or
remember how the 49ers were so upset at that linebacker?
Oh, Devondre Campbell.
Because he was unhappy about Dre Greenlaw taking his spot. And when then Dre Greenlaw got hurt.
He just needed to wait a quarter. But yeah, that's exactly what happened, yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to the game because it's called quitting on your team. That's why there's so much negativity towards him. I'm not sure I know all the details, but this is the opposite. This guy said nothing and finished it up. and he took a slower time, and he took potentially looking worse at drills. Now, I'm sure his agent probably said, well, you need to post that picture.
Yeah,
friend.
You got to help me out here.
You know, and, but I also respect that he rolled his ankle, grade 2. I don't think he called his agent and say, what do I do now? He was just like, shoot, I'm in the middle of this. Let's just go.
Let's hammer this out. Yeah.
Well, that's what you want out of a player in game, right? Let's just go. We'll figure it out after the game.
And his 40 time might not have been a differentiator. He might be good at other stuff too, right? As a tight end.
I don't know. Who knows? I don't know if it's a blocking guy or a pass catching guy, but in any case, I might argue as a GM, if the first thing you do when that happens is you call your agent, that ain't the guy I want.
You're too good at social media.
Tie your shoelaces tighter and finish up the drill. That's the kind of guy I want anyway. So I think he made himself some points.
That's interesting. Yeah. So jump back to the big one, Abdul Carter. So they actually released a statement. Dan Cooper.
And no Hearts this year.
Huh?
Every year there's like a Maurice Hurst,
no heart issues. No.
Just where you're not allowed to work out, and it works itself out.
I feel like they've mastered that now, because I feel like in the past it was like automatic. Mo Hurst, you were so animate on the other side. You're like, he's going to be fine. He's become a good backup.
This is what we talked about last week. They do a lot more pre-screening, so they're no longer. The first test isn't when you arrive, and oh wait, now we don't have time to clear you.
Okay.
There are tests that they do ahead of time and say, oh, well, you need this in order to work out. And you can and that all came from COVID, because they did all the tests remotely during COVID.
And they found out that worked maybe better for some people.
So
just to set you up on Carter again, Doc. Okay. So Dan Cooper, the Cowboys team doctor, did his shoulder surgery. We had a lot of information on his shoulder surgery during sixth quarter. Remember when he played Boise State when they go in the title game. Now there's a stress reaction in his right foot. They found that a small fracture during his medicals at Combine. That's what we talked about last week, right? It's stuff that you find. Tell me your thoughts on his foot fracture and why it might be a big deal.
I think the situation is interesting. How did the information get out there? Schefter reported it, I believe, and I think it came from Drew Rosenhaus.
Right.
So my first question as a doctor, first of all, the story was he's trying to decide whether to do surgery now or to do surgery after his pro day, or to do surgery at all. And the quoted timeline was 8 weeks for recovery. My first thing there is, first of all, it's not a guaranteed 8 weeks. Julian Edelman had if this is a fifth metatarsal stress fracture, which is common for edge rushers and wide receivers, sometimes running backs, sometimes DBs, that cut on a dime. If this is the case, fifth metatarsal stress fracture, Julian Edelman had 2 of them. Had surgery, rushed back in 8 weeks, had another surgery. Julio Jones had 2 of them. Derwin James
he had
one before Combine, before in college, and needed a second operation.
In the metal or something was like a pin or something.
When he was with the Chargers. There's multiple examples of reoperation in Jones fracture. 8 weeks is the early timeline to return, but it's not guaranteed. That's why I was saying on social media, rely on your game film. Don't worry about the pro day. Get fixed and be assured that you're fine. Turns out he's told he doesn't need to be fixed at all.
No surgery,
And they're claiming he's asymptomatic. So my question is this. If he's asymptomatic, how did they discover it? I don't know. I mean, if he has no symptoms, do you have any issues? No. Anything with your foot? No. You cannot detect a stress fracture
on an x-ray at all?
On an exam. The stress fracture obviously is mild enough that he walks normally without a limp. And how did you detect it? You don't do routine MRIs on feet. You don't do routine x-rays on feet. And a stress reaction probably doesn't show up in the x-ray. You don't do routine bone scans. How did it get discovered? Was there some history that he had and that a team wanted some additional imaging? Was there a leftover something from college, or was he symptomatic? I just don't buy that he's completely asymptomatic, has no issues, and somehow it got discovered at the combines. So with that backdrop, I still don't think it's look, he's going to get drafted where he deserves to get drafted. I don't think a team is not going to draft him.
Kuiper put him first overall. So, I mean,
it was a different story a couple years ago when we felt like
Tyree Wilson
and Will Anderson were close. And when they were close, we said clearly Will Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
And look at what's happened. Will Anderson's been way dominant over Tyree Wilson. Third pick after C.J. Stroud, Houston. Tyree Wilson, not so much so far. Maybe that'll still revert, but because
with the Raiders right now, Wilson, yeah.
But if Abdul Carter is clearly the best, I don't think this is going to dissuade anyone. But it's also not impossible for a team to say, Abdul, we drafted you number 1, 2, or 3. Just go ahead and get that foot fixed because we don't want to deal with it during the season.
Okay.
You still have time. That's still not going to be surprising. And remember, it's on his right foot. And if he's really more of a left defensive end, the left foot is more prone, and we do see plenty of examples of bilateral. So that's just a footnote.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I think a team is going to draft him where they want to draft him.
And they're going to make him do surgery more often than not, probably.
Yeah. I mean, look, I always look at being proactive and, fixing things in the off season when they don't affect the season and getting them right. But once again, I haven't examined him and looked at him. But the number one question here is, I just don't buy that he's completely asymptomatic or has no history of issues. How did they discover it? I've been to 20-plus combines. If a guy really had no symptoms, no college history, no nothing, doesn't walk with a limp, is working out, doing everything, you're not x-raying his foot, much less MRIing his foot or getting a bone scan on his foot. How do they discover the stress reaction? That's my only question. There had to be something. And if there is something, that might change the equation on what to do. But he's still going to get drafted near the top. This is not a Tyree Wilson situation.
Next one I had, Doc, one of the best offensive tackles. He had a patellar dislocation in October. He said he's way ahead of schedule.
Let's use terms correctly here.
Patella dislocation.
Is that what it was?
Yes. Yeah.
Or is it patella tendon rupture?
Let me see here. Let me look real quick.
2 different injuries. I might have read patella tendon rupture.
Okay.
I'm trying to clarify.
Let me see it. Maybe I can't read my own handwriting. So
That's was the.
I have it written down. Yeah. I have my Google search says patellar tendon. So yes.
Patellar tendon
rupture. Yes.
Okay.
In October, he said he's way ahead of schedule, and they have an April pro day. Your thoughts on that? He's supposed to be one of the top prospects, but
he's not doing April pro day. Yeah. I mean.
I need to hear it from you. I didn't.
I mean,
Josh Simmons, offensive lineman. Yeah.
Look, patella tendon rupture. I was asked, worse, patella tendon rupture or ACL tear? I think it depends.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if you like this analogy.
Okay.
You got into a car accident. Is it better to have crashed into something or be rear-ended by someone?
Rear-ended?
Why?
Impacts in the back?
My answer is depends.
Okay.
Were you rear-ended at 20 miles an hour?
Yeah, the speed.
Did you crash into someone at 200 miles an hour? Right? What damage is there? Okay. Now, patella tendon rupture isolated with no other damage, I believe is a harder recovery than an isolated ACL tear in terms of getting your ultimate power back. Just longer, more grueling. But an ACL tear has more risk of associated damage, like to your radiator, to the engine, to the other things. So it's almost like
associated damage is more of an issue.
Yeah. I mean, when you're rear-ended, it's actually, in some ways, you're usually stopped when you're rear-ended, right? So it's usually a high-power collision, but there's less associated damage. When you hit something, sometimes it's slower speed, but there's the risk of associated damage. So I'd say an ACL is like running into someone, and an ACL is being a patella tendon is like being rear-ended.
Okay.
It's not a perfect analogy, but you'd rather not be rear-ended because that usually involves high speeds. but you don't want to hit something because there's associated damage. So it depends on the car accident, depends on the injury. But look, I think it's great if he can be ready for training camp. I don't see pro day happening, but you can project him and you can look at him and so forth, and he'll be at rechecks and they'll see him again. And it doesn't take him off the draft board as long as you can project him and so forth.
Big thing you always say is the type of position and injury, right? An ACL to maybe a cornerback, Chevelle Rever Jr. for instance.
And was this his right or left knee?
This is his left. Oh, for the offensive lineman, this is his left knee.
And what side does he play on?
He's a left tackle.
I argue that it's better because
Okay.
the inside is the power leg to get out to the outside. So I would argue that's a little bit better.
But still, training camp is the best for him to be fully ready to go.
I mean, if he were fully ready to go training camp, I'd take that. And I don't see him performing overly well at a pro day. And if I were involved, I might say, why? Why not? Why show that you're not 100% at pro day unless, go by game film.
You even had like Baldy's breakdowns showing footage of him before the patellar. Like if people know what you are before, there's no reason to show them when you're injured, right? There's to value yourself when you're already up there.
Well, you want to be at your best, right? I mean, if you can, if you've already taken the SAT and you have a good score, is there any reason to take it again if you've been sick?
No.
I mean, you're going to post sure, they may still take your high score, but then you're going to see two scores, including one that's lower.
It looks like you did it twice.
Don't take that second SAT test if you already posted a good score.
Yes.
If you're sick right before it. Why? Yeah, sure, many schools take the highest score, but why post that lower score for the people to see if you haven't been feeling well? I don't know.
Last one I had, Doc, is a medical phenomenon. We had Jalen Milroe's hand size was going all crazy on Twitter. He had 8 3/4 28 days ago, and now he is 9 3/8. Is that scientifically possible?
How is my hand size?
From a surgeon, I think you're okay.
How's my hand size now?
It's a little bigger. You webbed it out like Spider-Man a little bit.
They measure from the tip of the thumb to the tip of the
yes.
finger. Is it possible that he went, how's your hand size? He goes like this, and he didn't know the trick to do that? I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean,
but you're saying scientifically it's impossible to grow your hand in 28 days? That yes or no?
If you're asking, can Viagra help you? No, it can't. Okay. I mean, can you make the measurement different? Yes. Could you potentially stretch? I mean, this is certainly further than this.
Right.
Right. So you can stretch and
change the plane. Yeah.
Change, I mean,
no, it's like a trading card thing. I feel like if you get 4 trading cards from different companies, put them right here, same player, all weights and heights are a little different. It's just, I don't know. Doesn't matter, right?
That's one factor. But he grew by what? 5/8 of an inch or 7/8?
Yeah,
that's almost impossible, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I need you to say.
He probably just went, how's your hand? Spread out. And he goes like this. And then he doesn't. Okay, if you do that, you get a little.
It's next level thinking. Maybe he knows there's going to be 2. So Senior Bowl, you do a small one, and then the Combine one, you do a big one, just to make it look like he did more. I don't know.
So. I think he didn't get any coaching on the hand size measurement kind of thing. Then there's technique involved too, right? I mean, and whether it's the long jump or whether it's the shuttle or whether it's the vertical. Look, I'll tell you something. When I was in high school, I posted a pretty good vertical.
Mm-hmm.
You know how?
How?
I mean, I think they're more sophisticated now. What's that?
You made yourself shorter.
Well, okay. When I reach up for the baseline, here I am, instead of doing that.
Okay.
So if I have a lower base, I gained a couple inches to my vertical.
Okay. Don't don't move it up.
Yeah, have a little bit of alligator arms. Keep that shoulder depressed as you reach up instead of using all the scapular thoracic.
Everybody else is trying their might to get to the top. Yeah.
I'm like, let's.
It's interesting.
And look, and guys have done this, I know. they've tanked their concussion baseline test.
Okay.
So you have to get to the baseline is one step to be cleared. Now that bar is easier.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them before. I'm like, oh, they scored much better. And I get the sort of wink. So you didn't try. He goes,
Yeah.
Shrug.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't try in the preseason one.
That's interesting. Yeah. Now you just get 2. All right, Doc. Obviously, like you said, we're doing basketball, college basketball. I just want to mention that Sig Picks free week again. Code is March. Okay. Let's dive into the biggest basketball story. I want to do a big video this weekend, but you said it'd be better to let everybody Q&A this, right?
Look, I want to hear the questions from you or the public. I don't love doing soliloquies.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Embiid. Huge deal. We've hinted at it before when he played through a meniscus tear. It's like, not great. He had a scope and then came back and saw issues. He's like, this is kind of a problem here. But news I heard this weekend was he may need a meniscus replacement.
Or transplant.
Same thing. Okay. But different words, but similar thing. And I said, basically unprecedented in the NBA and major sports, and red flag. And sure enough, the next day he was ruled out for the season by the 76ers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make it a statement. Okay. I'm going to make a statement. Understand, I have not examined him. I have not looked at his films, but using my time in NBA, my knowledge as a sports medicine, having done meniscus replacement and transplant surgeries, this is a big deal. This is a big deal for Joel Embiid. On the table is career done. Meniscus transplants are difficult. On the table is career done. Not saying for sure, but it is against the odds that he will return to be the same player. Once again, I didn't say impossible. I said against the odds.
We do have a player comp we'll talk about,
Given his size, his weight, his chronic struggles, because undoubtedly he's got some articular cartilage issues in addition to just the meniscus. And I know the comp you're going to do. And we talked about Lonzo Ball on this podcast with John Heffernan, former Chicago Bulls head team physician who's on the Sports Injury Central staff. And when more surgery was coming, he gave a similar opinion that this is not good for Lonzo Ball. So give me Lonzo Ball's number pre-meniscus transplant and cartilage transplant and currently.
So I got it right here for you. So first off, he missed 2 full seasons as well. So add that to the beat thing. So before he was a 10 to 12 point scorer average per game. He shot 43% from the field, and he was about 3 to 5 assists a game. Right now, he is currently at where is it at here? He is at 7.6 points a game. His shooting percentage is now at 36%. That has dropped a whole 4 to 5% from when he was in his when he was before.
Well, more than that from your numbers, but okay.
Yes. 3-point percentage has dropped almost 8% to 9%. Every single statistical category for him is down, including the points. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
And he's a point guard too, so he's different.
Think most people in the league are if you miss 2 NBA seasons?
That's hard. You said any sport. You missed two seasons. Yeah.
Joel Embiid, big guy.
Big guy.
More force. Look, when he's athletic, he's special.
MVP type, yes. Yeah.
But when he's not athletic, he's plodding. And look, Lonzo Ball has beat the odds by returning to the NBA. So I'm proud of those numbers.
This is his first year back, by the way, too. Yeah.
But if you take that as the high water mark, that's Joel Embiid missing 2 seasons and being 75% of himself when he comes back.
I said 85 when I was talking to other people. 75, that's even worse. Yeah, I mean.
That's a big deal.
And you think just from Lonzo, the big difference too is that they're point guard and center. This is 2 different body types.
It is more likely that Joel Embiid is done in the NBA than it is that he returns to his dominant previous self, because that's the trajectory of meniscus transplant surgery and or cartilage transplant surgery. Lonzo Ball is a great example of someone who has beat the odds and actually returned, and he clearly is not himself even after 2 years. So this is going to be quite the process that we hope Embiid can play through. I'm not hoping to be a negative naysayer and be correct. I'm just saying this is the reality. More likely done than himself of what we think about Joel Embiid. A good outcome would be he gets back to Lonzo Ballish type recovery. That's a really good outcome. So this is a big deal for the 76ers and Joel Embiid.
I had a question to ask you. So last year he had a little bit of a knee issue to end during the playoffs. And then he rushed back to go to the Olympics. And that was a huge deal. He wanted to get ready, and then he wasn't ready for the regular season. He got it. Journalists called him out. They had a self-imposed fat camp for him to start the regular season because he was out of shape coming back from the Olympics. From I guess a medical or the team perspective, would you have allowed him to go to the Olympics knowing that he has these issues and this regular season was going to come up? And
well, on the one hand, I'd say,
in hindsight, it looks like it was a terrible idea. But I mean,
well, on the one hand, I'd say he wanted to do it for his country, and good for him. And he has some nationalistic pride, and I would applaud that it's more about himself. It's not like he got a big money to go to the Olympics. He wanted to accomplish that, maybe. So I don't know the whole story. Look, I'm not trying to apologize for athletes, but if he's trying to lay off his knees, are you surprised he put on some weight? Maybe he was resting his knees.
Yeah, I was not surprised by the weight gain for sure. Yeah.
For the fat camp type stuff. I think it's been a brewing long-term hard problem. And without us knowing all the details, I'm not trying to blame Joel Embiid. If he didn't go to the Olympics, he'd be fine. He might be right.
It might be the same
spot,
thing. Yeah, I agree with that.
Kind of thing. The Olympics is relatively short.
Mm-hmm.
Look, in NBA playoffs, one NBA playoffs is way longer than the Olympics.
Olympics only 5 or 7 of the whole week, a whole month for spectacle. Yeah.
Even the lead up to it. The NBA playoffs are much more grueling. So I'm not blaming him, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope he beats the odds. I hope it's not the end. I hope he can come back better than even Lonzo Ball. But this is a big deal. That's all I can say, looking at the situation.
One thing I wanted to mention, there was some pushback between Daryl Morey and Embiid. They kind of didn't agree on his what he should do. Embiid kind of wanted to sit out a little bit more. Morey was pushing him to go on. It kind of reminds me of that. Remember Kawhi Leonard when he was on the Spurs? How he says they didn't really work with his knee well, and then he went to the Raptors, and apparently they did, and they won a championship. So I mean, does he need the right people to work with him? Or
I don't know the whole story there, but clearly any sort of meniscus chronic and or particular cartilage issue is a big deal. Suffice it to say, we have one NBA example of a meniscus transplant, admittedly with cartilage transplant, returning back to play at less than 100% after 2 seasons. We don't have any others.
Right. Yeah. It's like Lonzo Ball is a great case, but the other cases,
that's why I say Lonzo Ball's case is better than expected. I mean, I would expected perhaps him to be done, and yet he came back some. So good on Lonzo Ball. That's what John Heffernan was saying, our last dance doctor from the Bulls.
There's people like Brandon Roy and Greg Oden didn't have a full transplant, but they had no like a meniscus or in their knee, and they said that it was rubbing against them and they couldn't play through that. So I mean, you either have the transplant, not play, or you just end up not getting to where you're supposed to be, right, with the injury. But yeah, like you said, this is bad. I want to mention though, you said it's gonna be a process. That's actually his nickname because they had a process when they were Sixers draft picks a couple years ago. Yeah, it's called the process. When Sixers were bad for years and they were getting first pick, it was called the process.
Doug, do you think I did that on purpose?
I know you did it on purpose because it's way too good. It was when I looked it up, I was like, that's way too good that he did that.
I just slid it in there. I didn't make it.
I had to call it out though. Yeah. But Yes, that's it for that. I mean, Doc,
Look,
does it sound you're clever, Doc. I know you are. I know you are.
A lot of kids sports now, and I watch, but
you're watching 3 sports every weekend. I know you're on it.
I'm not your typical orthopedist. I actually watch and know sports a little bit.
Mm-hmm. All right, Doc. I have nothing else for you. I just want to make sure people, again, college basketball is huge next month. This week is conference championships, so make sure you get on the free sick pick. March is the code.
Well, let's compile some injuries. Obviously, the one we didn't talk about, the Duke point guard.
Yes, Tyrese Proctor, please. Yes, that's my fault. Yeah, go to that real quick.
Well, when you guys sent me the video, I was like, well, he didn't tear his. It was a weekend. I forgot what we were doing. We should have probably gone harder with that.
Yes.
I don't think he tore his ACL. It's a bone bruise.
He missed a game already. They played
at least a couple games. Here's the question. I don't know the answer to it. I mean, it's possible that after missing a couple games, he pushes it and returns to the conference tournament. It's possible they say, I'm just going to rest and do what's best for my knee until the NC2As. It's possible his family or his agent or whatever says, I'm not risking my
NBA career, which he's a prospect. He's a good prospect. Yeah.
Through. I'm going to be conservative on this bone bruise and wait the full 6 weeks. Which,
from a coaching staff, does that look good or bad?
I would say, okay, my son is 12. Okay. But let's say he's 18
in this trajectory. Yeah.
In high school or what, I would say you should wait the 6 weeks.
Okay.
But I haven't seen his MRI. I would say, if you're asking me what's the safest for a knee with a bone bruise like he got in the game, it's pack it in for 6 weeks and ensure recovery. That's what's safest.
I will say, if they lose the first round of the conference tournament, they're still first seed in the tournament. They're one of the 4 best teams in the country. So in theory, I think you're definitely missing the conference championship.
That's what it would seem. That you're going to split the baby and say, okay, I'll give it a couple weeks rest. And then, but I want to play in March Madness. This is like the big deal. This is their Super Bowl, right?
Absolutely.
So I could see that. Depends how much swelling in his knee, how bad the bone bruise is, et cetera. But at least, the initial fears of, oh my gosh, are not there. And that reminds me of Duke player.
Malik. Oh, where are you going? The other kid?
Zion Williamson.
Oh, yes.
Back in the day. Remember we said he's the shoe blowout? And I was like, he's returning before the NCAA tournament. He's returning, I thought, for the conference. And people said, you're crazy. And I'm like, that isolated MCL is not a long-term worry. The difference here is a bone bruise can get worse.
Right.
An MCL heals reliably. And, it was interesting. I'll tell a small anecdote here. It's not me, a friend of mine. We were at an Oregon basketball game. He's huge Oregon.
Oh, it's the Purdue-Oregon game. Yeah, I remember.
And no, this is during Zion Williamson's
return. This is back in the day. Okay.
It was a Pac-10, 12 tournament in Vegas.
Okay.
I happened to be there for something. A friend invited me to go. He's big-time Oregon. And, of course, he knows Phil Knight. He introduces me. And that was Zion Williamson's first game back.
From the shoe incident.
Yeah. And he saw me with my phone monitoring. He kept asking me, what's he got? How's he doing? And I still remember this. I said to Phil, I said, I'm sure your phone went off with the whole thing. And I said, you know what? I've never seen it happen like that before, but there's no long-term damage. His health is fine. I said, I think you're going to end up where someone's going to come up with a Zion Williamson unbreakable shoe line or something. And Phil turns to
Invincible
me,
shoe. Yeah.
Invincible turns to me and says, that boy will be just fine. I was like, yeah, Nike's not going to let Adidas pry him away.
Just because 30 seconds into that game. Yeah. It was insane. Yeah.
He's obviously been fined financially. And
yes.
Otherwise. But anyways, so a lot goes into return to play because this potentially has long-term. If you rush it, I don't see them rushing it if there's a risk. if they can get rid of the wrist, then we'll see him back for the tournament.
I just say if he's playing and I see his prop, I'll know what to do from what you're telling me. So, because either way, if he's playing this year, it's a rush, right? If I see him out there for a tournament, it's rushed. It's going to be less than 6 weeks. So,
well, we'll plug it into the
free
proprietary formula.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Depends. Depends on the number. It depends on the situation. Yes. A lot of other factors. All right. Thanks for watching and listening. Pro Football Doc Sports Injury Central podcast here. I guess we're going to try and hit, free agency.
Yes. We have a lot of content on Sports Injury Central on that.
I'm telling you what we said on Kirk Cousins. We're not covering for Kirk Cousins last week.
You don't think he's going to be the backup, right? Because Atlanta Fontenot did say he's our backup this year. It's a really expensive backup. So,
well, I'm not a cap expert. Can you balance that expensive backup against a rookie contract quarterback?
That's interesting because in theory, you're just paying for one number. Yeah, if you put it together, that makes sense.
Maybe you can get away with that.
I like
and yeah. If they think Atlanta is built to win, would you want to back up for Penix or is Penix? I mean, I don't think your confidence in Penix. A, all quarterbacks can get injured. B, your confidence in Penix can't be the same as your confidence in Jaden Daniels.
Right.
Right. I mean, he's played 5 games, 4 games, so I don't know. But all I'm saying is before his shoulder and elbow injury that was listed on the next week's injury report,
week 13, yep.
17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions through 9.5 games. The remaining 4.5 games that he played, 1 touchdown, 9 interceptions. Coincidence?
Every peripheral stat was down too. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that was a huge difference for Kirk Cousins. And look, that's another instance where I think some media were giving him grief. Like, well, we asked you if you were hurt and you said no. Well, he just sucked it up and kept quiet.
Yeah.
I mean,
like the tight end from that.
I can't blame Kirk Cousins for that. So I have to support him on this. So because of that, and look, if we know this at Sports Injury Central, I would expect teams around the league, the Falcons, to know this for sure.
Yep.
And other teams around the need to know this. So I think the narrative that Kirk Cousins is washed is not real based on the injury analysis. Kirk Cousins is not washed. The Falcons know it. Other teams will know it. If we know it at Sports Injury Central, other teams will know it. So that'll be interesting to play into
a dynamic
quarterback free agency or otherwise. And I have no skin in the game. I've never met Kirk Cousins. I'm not trying to say it. When I first heard about it at the Super Bowl and you told me, I was like, we need more details. We got to debunk this.
It looked like at first that he was just like, hey, I'm hurt. I'm on a new team or something, but you read in a little more details.
But when we did the research and you handed me what it was, it all made sense and it coincided. Forensically, medically looking at it, it makes sense that he indeed was hurt 2 plays before halftime in the week 10 game, shoulder and elbow, throwing shoulder. Anyways, all right. Thanks. Go to sicscore.com for the rest of the stuff. Thanks. Go get the free picks. Thanks for watching and listening.